from Los Angeles, this is the Echelon Radio Network.
Hi, we are back with the Echelon Radio podcast, and today I have attorney David Oberg with us. Thanks for coming in, David.
Thanks for having me.
Glad you made it. Let's talk a little bit about you and your practice before we get into maybe a couple of the fun things that we have to talk about today before we finish. So let's hear a little bit about your background as an attorney. I know you had some big law firm experience, but then you kind of went out on your own and you've really sort of made an art out of your practice, I think. You're one of the few people who I know has said very proudly that he answers his own phone. So tell me a little bit about how you got into law, where you've been, and your practice now.
Well, I did my undergraduate work in business, anticipating that I would do some sort of business-related law. And my practice today is that. It's a business transactional practice for probably 50-60% of it. We do a lot of entity formation, corporate compliance, corporate governance, some mergers and acquisition work. Anything other than really litigation. We try to shy away from that. The other half of the practice is pure bankruptcy and insolvency. So it's those two practice groups. I started my career at an insolvency boutique over in Century City. And after just a few years, there was a group of us that broke off and we merged with a very large national firm, McDermott, Will & Emery. And I became a partner over at McDermott, Will & Emery, and it was a great experience. It was nice being part of a large group, 1,000 lawyers, when I left there in 1995. 220 partners. It was a big shop.
It's a big firm.
And I went out on my own in 1995, and I had been out on my own ever since. And it's nice, and I do joke about that. It's I really take care of everything in my practice. I answer my own phones. I do my own filing. It's
So I assume with that you probably have it, and maybe I'm wrong in this assumption, but I'm guessing you have a fair amount of sort of owner entrepreneur types that their business has grown, they need an attorney, and you're kind of a right fit. You're not a big giant firm. You're not intimidating in that way. You do answer your phone. You will pick up a phone and talk to a client for a while. It's I'm guessing that's a lot of what your work is.
It is very much so. We are very much entrepreneurs. I am a business owner. I have an ownership stake, as you know, in a couple of other businesses because you've actually helped me with the logo and branding for those. And so I can relate to speaking with a business owner about how the business operates, not from a theoretical perspective as a lawyer, but rather from a person who understands what is it like to make payroll. What do the financials really got to look like in order to get the job done, i.e. get the loan with the bank?
Yeah.
And so I understand that. And I think that the clients really appreciate it because they don't want to hear the theoretical. They want, what's the practical? How do I get from point A to point B in as few steps as possible?
You know, I think that's really one of the most important things that we see with small to mid-sized business owners is it's almost like a club that we're all in. Once you've had to make payroll, once you've had to hire and fire people, and you've really sort of been on those front lines, I think it's one of those things that a trusted advisor that has that experience brings a little something extra to it, not just the theoretical, but the real life on that.
Yeah, clients, in my experience, want to understand the shortest path to get their problem solved. They don't want to know, how to make the clock. They want to know what time it is, and we're able to provide that. The nice thing about my background is I have that really large firm experience, national practice group, but I'm able to deliver that experience in a very low cost efficient environment. And I think clients appreciate that today. It's they want to get value. And
so they're getting that really high quality legal counsel, but they're not necessarily paying for the marble floor and the big oak desk.
That's exactly correct.
And the Wilshire Boulevard address.
That's exactly correct.
Got it. So tell me, how has obviously this last year and a half has been quite strange, a very challenging road for a lot of us to move along, but we seem to be coming out of it a bit right now. How has the last year or so been for you and your firm?
It's actually been very amazing for us. The pandemic, where everybody moved inside and started working remote. Well, as you know, I've been working out of the house now for 15 years.
I was going to say, you had a 15-year head start on the rest of us.
So it was really no change for me. It's day one, I went down the hall and went to my office, and day two, exactly the same thing. What else I did that was different was I expanded the firm. Last year, May, so it's a year now, my daughter, Madison, who graduated from law school and then passed the bar, joined me in my firm. So we doubled the size of the firm. We went from 1 to 2 during the pandemic, and it's worked out very well.
Well, and we know Madison, and we absolutely adore Madison. So very glad to see that's working well. She seems like a real good fit. What's interesting to us on the outside is you and Madison actually, I'd say you're cut from the same cloth, but you're really not the same. Two very different personalities. It's quite fun for us on the outside to sort of know both of you.
It is. We have very different philosophies. And look, she's a different generation than I am, and I respect that. But I think that we both respect each other, and we recognize that we have different talent and skill sets. And I think that we actually complement each other very nicely. So I actually learned from her as well. It's not just a one-way street. So it's
Now tell us, there is one other key player at the firm, and that player has 4 legs. Who is that?
That's Sophie. Sophie is our chief wellness officer. She's a 48-pound pit bull boxer mix, and that we rescued 4 years ago. And she's lovely, and she pretty much hangs out, as you know, right by my desk.
Yep.
And if I'm on a Zoom call, you can usually see her next to the desk. I tell you, the funniest thing is that she can sense now when calls are ending, because she can kind of tell when you're wrapping it up. She's up and she's ready to go, because when the call ends, she knows it's time to go out for a little stroll.
I was going to say, she wants a walk or a cookie or something.
That's exactly
right?
it. Yeah, we go out for a walk.
So with Sophie, tell us just real quick, if somebody wanted to see a picture of Sophie, might they see that on your website?
Absolutely. She has her own landing page, and I'll put a plug in for Madison. Madison has just rescued a dog as well, Luther, and so Luther is now up on the website as well.
Oh, wow. So and that website is?
Oberg Law, APC, as in Apple, Peter, Charles.com.
Very good. Well, I hope everybody goes to see that. Okay, so we've gotten some of the business out of the way. I want to throw out just a couple things to you, and I just want to hear your reaction. And for anybody listening, this is totally unrehearsed. David doesn't really know what I'm about to say, so this is always the fun part for me, since I know what I'm going to say. So I'm going to throw out the first one, and I'm going to throw out the word Porsche. What does Porsche mean to you?
It's a great brand and a fabulous car that I've had the privilege of owning several, and enjoyed them very, very much.
And what's been your favorite? Which has been your favorite?
I've only had the convertibles, and I think that my absolute favorite is the 911 convertible that I most recently had.
And possibly the ultimate sort of Canyon PCH car, I would say. It
is. Truth be told, the Boxster actually handles a little better, but it's that mid-engine car. But the 911 is just... That's really it.
My dad had an associate when I was a teenager, and she was a bit younger than he was, and she was a little bit less conservative. So she showed up for dinner at our house one weekend, and she mentioned that she was going to be taking a trip. And she asked my brother, who was 19, and she asked me, who at the time I was 16, if we would watch after her 9/11 Targa for about 3 weeks while she was gone. And my dad's eyes almost popped out of his head because he knew what that meant. And he was not sure that he liked it, but we said yes before he could say no. And so some of my fondest memories of that year in high school, and I had just gotten my license, which of course here in California, getting your license at 16 is everything. And being able to drive, I had to warm up that engine. I had just had to,
of course,
at least, run a little bit of gas and oil.
You don't want the tires to sit, they'll get hard. So,
and so we lived out on the west side. So driving up PCH was just so cool.
Yeah,
absolutely so cool.
It's truly an amazing vehicle. I think that they just, you look at the 911 and you can see how it's evolved over the years, but you can always tell that it's still part of the same family, and they just are amazing cars. I've had the privilege of owning 12 of them at this point.
Oh, goodness.
They're amazing. They
Nice.
just get better, faster, stronger, and more toys.
So let me throw another concept out to you. Police department.
Well, you'll recall, or maybe you don't recall, but I took a semester off of college and I joined the police academy. I went to the police academy and then joined Culver City Police Department in 1983. And I stayed there as a reserve officer. I promoted and I retired as a reserve captain in 2015, so 32 years later. That was my community service and enjoyed it very, very much.
So tell me what that was like, being a practicing attorney, but if I was to say it poetically, I'd say you were a practicing attorney with a badge and a gun.
It's true, and I've never, for that reason, had a practice that did anything criminal law related. I've always been on the civil side, and again, business transactional stuff primarily. But it does give you a very different perspective. You tend to meet people at their worst. People normally only call the police if they need to and there's something bad happening. A very, very rewarding career. And I think that men and women in law enforcement are just absolutely amazing. Probably the hardest job out there. It's unbelievable what you have to deal with on a daily basis. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for law enforcement, and I'm thrilled that I did it when I did it. I got to, I think, really help people, and it was a very enjoyable experience. And like I said, it's not for everybody, and it was my form of community service. It was something that I didn't get paid for, and if I didn't love it, I wouldn't have done it for 32 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, good on you for that. I think that's I think it's good for people to expose themselves to others around our community that we might not otherwise. And I think for you, doing that as a reserve officer, like you say, you can see people when they're at their worst, but ideally you're there to help them in one way or another.
That's exactly it. And I think it's very important, and we've tried to teach our children the same thing, that you have to give back. You can't just take. You got to do something for your community. And I wouldn't encourage everybody to go into law enforcement, but whether you join your church or your temple or you Madison volunteers at the Agora Animal Shelter, you got to do something to give back. That's what's really important.
And I think those of us that have done things like that, we find we're as much the better for it as anybody that we try to help along the way.
I agree with you. There's something very special that happens to you when you can just give to others and help them, and no compensation. It's nice. It's very rewarding.
So I've got another one for you, and you and I have never really talked about this. We scratched the surface one time previously. In fact, I can remember when it was. I was walking through Lowe's, and I got a call from you. And through the phone, it sounded almost as if your ears perked up a little bit when I was at Lowe's, and you said you've done a fair amount of woodworking.
I have. Again, just one of those things that I've really, really enjoyed. I started it back in elementary school, then continued woodworking in high school, and then took a lot of that in college as well. I really enjoy finished carpentry work, and in my house, I have a full wood shop. Although truthfully, at this point, it's harder and harder for me to justify doing it because I'm slow. I'm very methodical, and it's just not cost efficient. There are people that do it better and faster and less expensive than me. But it's something that I've really always enjoyed.
But I think woodworking is one of those things that it's if you need to get something done, sure, you can hire somebody, and if they do it all the time, they can do it quickly and inexpensively. But I think things like woodworking help save us money on therapy.
It's true. Anything where you have to really focus and concentrate on what you're doing, otherwise you're going to lose a finger or an eye, because you're working with power tools. It's very important you have to focus on that. But I've channeled my energy into another one of those, which is golf. It's a lot
safer.
I'll put it to you this way. I think that I leave the carpentry to the professionals. They can do it so much better than I, but I certainly enjoyed it.
So there's one more thing I want to hit on today, and I'm going to throw out another word, and I want everybody listening to know this has nothing to do with how you practice law, and that word is magic. Another
long-term hobby. I started practicing magic when I was 8 years old. I used to live over by the farmer's market, which for those who have grown up in Los Angeles now referred to as the Grove. Back then it was just the farmer's market. And there was a great magic shop, and I used to hang out over there, and I had a great mentor who taught me a lot of sleight of hand, and I would demonstrate the magic tricks behind the counter. Really got into it, and at 12, I auditioned and became a performing member of the Magic Castle up in Hollywood.
At 12?
At 12. And I've been there ever since.
Ooh.
So it's a long-term hobby. I did a lot of magic through high school at parties and events and things of that nature, and then in college, so it was a form of making money.
What kind of magic was your style?
I do sleight of hand, close-up work, cards, coins. Yeah.
Wow. We're going to have you maybe break out some coins or cards for us one of these days when you have the video cameras rolling.
My pleasure.
Well, David, that's been really fun having you come by. Thanks for sharing a little bit about both what you do during the daytime hours and maybe a few of those other things that take up some of the other hours of the day or week. So thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Presented by Echelon Business Development. More than just networking. Way more.